government for the increase in support. Well, I'm joined now by Jonathan Katz in Washington, D.C. Mr. Katz is Director of Democracy Initiatives and a Senior Fellow with the German Marshall Fund of the United States. Hello to you. We're hearing now the Ukrainian ambassador to France was saying on TV that they now have a promise of a total of 321 heavy tanks promised by various countries. What difference is this going to make now?
It's hugely important. The continued provision of needed military equipment to Ukraine, which is in a pitched battle with Russia, is critically important right now. We see heavy fighting in eastern Ukraine and Donetsk in that region. And so these tanks are going to be needed not only to liberate territory, but they're also used for defense as Russia continues, as we've seen over the last couple of days, continues to attack Ukrainian civilians and civilian infrastructure. So this couldn't come at a better moment in time, and more tanks and more support is going to be needed. So this is really the tipping point of the type of weapons Ukraine will need to retake territory.
So is it a tipping point in terms of weaponry more generally? Do you think this will lead to other things that we haven't seen before, other weaponry that we haven't seen before, maybe planes?
Well, there's already been aircraft given, including helicopters. The difference, Ukraine is now asking for the F-16 fighter plane. And right now, governments in the West are reluctant to provide that type of plane because of its range. And so you will see the U.S. and others carefully consider equipment and what is being provided to Ukraine, one, to avoid an escalation that might draw in NATO and European countries into this conflict. So there's still a division, a line, but every moment as part of this conflict, you've seen the West sort of remove barriers to the types of equipment needed, whether it's HIMARS, whether we're talking about tanks. And so it's not out of the question that you might see down the road equipment or aircraft like F-16s. So it's not impossible to see, but Ukrainians are brave. They're making the case for what they need, and it's up to the Ukraine's partners and allies to provide that support and equipment as soon as possible.
I suppose in terms, though, of what Russia is talking about, it's talking about this being further evidence of the West's growing direct involvement in Ukraine, isn't it? What the narrative to people back home is that the West is involved, isn't it?
Well, it's hard to actually take Russia serious. For whatever it says. It's been committing war crimes since it launched this war almost a year ago, killing civilians, committing war atrocities. Russia continuously makes this statement about escalation, and the United States, Europe, the UK, and others continue to provide the equipment that Ukraine is asking for, the same equipment that let them go on a successful counteroffensive over the last several months. And what we're seeing now with these tanks is hopefully the ability to go on another counteroffensive to retake back land that Russia has taken and to restore sovereignty and territorial integrity to Ukraine. So it's hard to take Russia seriously when it makes these statements, but you certainly have to be concerned about escalation. And I think that's what the U.S., President Biden, and other leaders are thinking about when they get together at the Ramstein Group to talk about what Ukraine needs and what it can successfully deploy.
OK. Jonathan Katz, thank you very much for your time.